Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is Ash Quest, and this is a bit more of a self-indulgent video. I'm going to share with you the results of my trip into the city. Some of this is going to be a book haul. Actually, most of it's going to be a book haul. So if you're interested in fantasy books, fantasy game books, maybe Warhammer, maybe Conan, I don't know, we'll see. I don't want to give away too much. Then stay tuned and we'll look at some of the stuff that I got. Also some stuff that I got in the mail, kind of a general overview of what I was able to find out in the wild, as well as a couple of things that I ordered, just to show you a preview of what's to come here on the channel. So hang out with me. Let's look at some stuff. I went to the city, went to the St. Louis area, grabbed a few things from Miniature Market, Half Price Books, a place called Fantasy Shop in St. Charles, just off of Zumbel, and a place called Rose's Bookshop, or maybe Rose's Bookstore. I don't know. Rose's, definitely. And definitely in that O'Fallon area. And I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of stuff that I encountered. Fantasy shop I'll go to again, but it'll probably be a while. Miniature Market always remains a very surprising location, a favorite. I like what they've got. I like their vibe. I like that there's so much stuff to look at. But enough about that. I want to show you what I found north of here at a tiny, it's not exactly tiny, at a decently sized consignment store. Night Lords, the Omnibus, Warhammer 40K, an omnibus of the Night Lords. This is the first 40K book that I've ever seen out in the wild, and it's the first time I've ever picked up a Warhammer book at all out in the wild, because I never see them, with the exception of the single book that I got called Storm Vermin, that's based in the Age of Sigmar universe. That I didn't get that at clearance, and it's not out of print as far as I know. It was at the game store. This was at a resale / consignment shop. And you want to know how much I paid for this? I paid $3 for this. Don't be too envious, because while these Black Library Omnibus books are pretty high dollar after they go out of print, and they're close to impossible to get unless you get on eBay and you spend about 3 to 5 times the cover price, I never see this stuff, and I am constantly at resale shops, thrift stores, consignment stores, pawn shops. I'm constantly looking for this stuff. This is the first time that I've seen one. But I will say that I now will be able to scan shelves a little bit quicker looking for the Warhammer logo in this spot. Not to mention all the books seem to be black. I want to show you what I ordered off of eBay. Pretty decent price. It was less than $20. So it was actually less than its MSRP, which is pretty nuts. But I'm a big fan of the End Times section of the Old World, and the Old World is my favorite Warhammer timeline. It's my favorite Warhammer franchise section of product, whatever you want to call it. Warhammer Chronicles, the End Times Fall of Empires. This has 5 stories. It's 3 novels and 2 short stories, all in this one handsome edition. And this is actually the first in a set of 2 novels that are collections of books from this End Times series by all of these different authors. So we have another 3 novels and 2 or 3 short stories in the second book as well. And if you go looking for this for yourself, you will find that there are a couple of different editions. This is where things get a little bit nerdy, where things get a little bit boring, maybe, depending on your level of nerdism here. But bear with me. We have a version of this collection that is 2 volumes, of which this is the first, and I'm going to get the second. And we have a version of this collection that is 3 volumes, and there's like 2 stories in each volume, plus a handful of short stories. So it more or less tries to collect the same books and the same short stories across the series for that version of the End Times. And then there is also the original run, which are single books, single volumes. Obviously, each author tried to get published on their own merit, and they did get published, and they've got their own stuff out there standalone with its own beautiful cover and its own ISBN, and it's a single volume of work. So we have like 10 of those, 9 or 10 of those. I'm not too well versed. I just know that getting this book and getting the second book, the second collection in the series of 2 volumes, is a total experience. That's the way that I wanted to do it with this particular line of books in the End Times series for the Old World. It doesn't help things that they have very similar covers. So when you're looking for the End Times Fall of Empires and you see this cover, this artwork has been used on a few books. So you'll want to check if you want to go the same route that I am. And this is the ISBN for this book, as well as the UPC for this book. You'll want to check for sure. The Return of Nagash, The Fall of Altdorf, and Sigmar's Blood, and 3 short stories are in here. So I said 2 earlier, but there are actually 3 short stories. So that's what I ordered online. That's what I got deliberately because I thought that it was a very good deal because it was less than the MSRP of $21. I also ordered these online. This is not part of my book haul, but we'll get back to that. But I'm going to show you these briefly. This were a pretty good deal when I found these on eBay. And these are a set of Fantasy Forest books. They're for kids. They're like Choose Your Own Adventures, but they're from TSR, who produced Dungeons & Dragons at the time that these books were published. And they will have the TSR flair. We have volumes 1 through 6, so we have The Ring, the Sword, and the Unicorn, Ruins of Ragnar, Rangar. Boy, it's going to be hard not to say Ragnar every single time I read that. Shadow Castle, Keep of the Ancient King, Dungeon of Darkness, and Star Rangers and the Spy. I saw a similar series of books called Endless Quest. I think I've got one of those books, and I'm interested in looking through it and kind of seeing what the similarities are. I think at the end of the day, they're just Choose Your Own Adventure books with an original retail price of $195 back in the good old days when TSR had control. But we do have lots of artwork, very cartoony artwork, kind of sign of the times, but also very simplistic artwork. I say that and then turn the page, and then we have just like this absolute masterpiece here going so hard with all the control panels and aliens and screens. And then this one here, it's going to be cheese factor, but I would like to do a playthrough of at least the very first book and maybe Shadow Castle on the channel. And when I say playthrough, I mean we'll go through and we'll attempt to play them and reach a couple of different endings, because these kinds of books don't really have one continuous definitive path. They have a few different good endings, and then several bad endings, and then several ambiguous endings, if they're anything like the Choose Your Own Adventure / other Endless Quest type books that I've read. All right, next up, I am a fan of Robert Asprin's Myth Inc. line, and I was able to score this book for $3. Not in the best condition. I don't really care too much about conditions unless I find another book for around the same price or cheaper out in the wild or as part of a collection or whatever, and then I'll go through and I'll just replace books, and then I'll give the books that I had to better homes. These are about Skeeve, Oz, and all of the other gang in Myth Inc. These are all from Robert Asprin, who is a big fan of putting puns in his titles. I like these. I read a couple of them. They're good fun. They're a bit indecent from time to time, but it's right up my alley. I really do like them. I've got the Myth Fortunes board game from Mayfair Games, I think, to show you guys at some point. So I hope that those of you who are Myth Inc. fans, you'll pipe up and let me know, and then I'll be more excited to show you that game. Next up, Bronwyn's Bane. Got this one from Rose's bookstore as well. I have to say, after browsing Rose's fantasy section, there are more fantasy books than I imagined there being. There are more fantasy books than I realized. There are more fantasy series, and I've been through bookstores. We had a bookstore close on us very recently that was in town after years of being closed. It got new owners. They took inventory. They took stock of what was there. They basically priced everything to move out immediately. They were like, just take the paperbacks, $0.25 a piece. And while they didn't have any like groundbreaking holy grail types of books, they did end up having some of the wizard editions of fighting fantasy books. Like I was able to get The Creature of Havoc from there, and I never expected to find that at that bookstore, as well as a bunch of other books. So I had a pretty good idea of how deep and wide the fantasy spectrum was. But no, I didn't actually. It's much deeper, and I about drowned in it when I went to Rose's to check out what books she had. Bronwyn's Bane here is the story of this character on the cover who was cursed with a spell that makes her tell nothing but lies. This ought to be a pretty decent read, I think. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for me. Next up, I got a bunch of Piers Anthony books from my wife, who's collecting Piers Anthony books. I wanted to show these two off, Chimera's Copper and Serpent Silver, because back in the day, I found a book called Orc's Opal, and while it's part of this series, it's very much not the first book. I read it anyway because, I had very limited access to anything fantasy. We just did not have the ability to travel anywhere beyond the confines of our small town, and not having a car, we could only walk to thrift stores that happened to be in our vicinity. And we had one just a few blocks away, so we frequented the place, and I got Orc's Opal, and I loved it. So at some point, I'm going to pick back up this series, start from the beginning, and read through all, I think, 5 of the volumes. It starts with Dragon's Gold, then Serpent Silver, Chimera's Copper, Orc's Opal. I'm not sure if the ESP Worm and the Ring are part of that series. I think that there's a book that happens after Orc's Opal that just wasn't published at the time that this was, for them to be able to list it in the opening pages of the book there. Now we're going to a place called Half Price Books. I did not know we had one. And I say we as in northeastern Missouri, but we do. And it's going to be exciting visiting that place again and again to check out their stuff and see what they have. But I actually got a few things from there that I was proud of. I got Twisted Dragon, $3, first time in print by Kevin Stein. This one looks weird, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Relive the magic of Elfwood. Looks like a classic fantasy tale of 4 fearless warriors storming a terror, confronting a dragon. I can't resist. Who can say no to that? I have no idea what the book is like or what it's really about, what are the finer plot points, but we'll get into it. A book called Dragon Slayer, which is based on the major motion picture. We'll try some techniques to get these stickers off. And honestly, $2 for a book that was originally $2.75. I'm down with it. This is cheesy fantasy at its best. It's based on the screenplay rather than the screenplay being based on this book. And it comes with photos of the screenplay. So I haven't seen this movie yet. I don't think you guys will take my nerd card from me for not having seen this movie in particular. At some point, I do want to see it, though. I've seen the trailers and stuff, looking up giant 70s and 80s fantasy movie trailer compilations on YouTube and getting a bunch of ideas for what to try to watch next. And it just seems like my kind of movie for sure. I will plan on possibly watching the movie first, though, because if I end up absolutely hating it, then I know I don't have to read the book. Next up, and we're only going to get better and better from here, let's go back to Fantasy Shop, St. Charles, take a quick segue. I got a bunch of stuff at half off for the paints. I got Necrotic Flesh, Orc Blood, and Toxic Boils. I have not exactly these colors with my Army Painter Speed paints, so I'll just take those and supplement my paint arsenal with them. And then, at 75% off its $19.95 retail price, I got the Talisman Adventures Fantasy Role-Playing Game Accessory Pack. I saw the Pegasus Spiel, I saw Talisman Adventures, and I thought, ooh, stuff I don't have for Talisman 4th Edition. I didn't remember at the time of picking these up that there is actually, or was actually, and will be again, a Talisman role-playing game. We've got Cubicle 7 coming out with the 2nd edition of the Talisman role-playing game, so I guess it must have done well. But this is just a set of custom dice and tokens. It's not something that I think I'm actually going to hang on to. I don't know, we'll see. I might decide to add these dice in with my board game, but at $5, marked down from $20, that really appealed to my bargain hunting heart. So I guess we will see what this does come with. We do have the Talisman dice, wherein the 1 and 6 have been replaced by the Talisman symbol and a skull. I'll give you 2 guesses as to which number replaces what, and your first guess doesn't count. 4 orange and 2 red. Doubtless they have a purpose for that. And then we have tokens. The tokens feel really good in my hands. I don't know what they're for at all. I think they're fate tokens, actually. Fate tokens, lit up, dark. Yeah, I don't think that they are alignment related. I think they're fate tokens. I could be wrong. They could be alignment tokens. But it would make sense if they were fate tokens, because I know the role-playing game does utilize fate tokens. Man, they feel good. They feel really good. I don't know what I would use these for, but tactile, they are awesome. So probably not going to use any of this stuff, and it might go up for sale through the Discord like so much of my other stuff does if I don't decide that I have a use for it. All right, that is all I got from that store, paint and talisman stuff. I am skipping around just a little bit because I have some really cool stuff to show off. Coming up, 3 more things. There we go, good as new. I was never here. Least exciting to you, but I was very excited when I found it. Dream of the Red Chamber. There are 4 mythical, legendary books of China, and this is one of the 4, translated and adapted from the Chinese. And the other 3 are Dream of the Water Margin, Journey to the West, and Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Dream of the Red Chamber is one of their 4th literary classics. They have another list of 4 just like mythological epics, and it's the same list, but Dream of the Red Chamber I think is left out, and added in is Intervention of the Gods. So you have 5 books that really kind of encapsulate the best of classic Chinese fantasy. Dream of the Red Chamber is a bit more of a romantic deal, which deals with reincarnation and tragedy. And I've probably read about this much of this particular story, not this book in particular, but I've definitely read the opening chapter that dealt with the event that kicks off the Dream of the Red Chamber. Like I said, maybe not exciting to you, definitely something I was excited to find. I love the idea of having all of the classic Chinese stories. I would love to have the handsomely collected hardbacks of Journey to the West, Tale of the Water Margin, and so on. Those have been on my buy list for a long time. Next, the penultimate find, Conan the Buccaneer by Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. It's my goal to have all of the Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter and Robert E. Howard Conan books. I don't really think I will care to collect any of the others. I really like L. Sprague de Camp's writing style. So of course I'm going to get his Conan works. Plus he worked with Robert E. Howard quite a bit back then. They did pen some things together. So if anybody has a good idea as to how to pick up the Conan legacy and write Conan the way that Conan should be written, it's probably going to be L. Sprague de Camp. I'm saying his name wrong, I just know it. Somebody out there correct me. And finally, the most impressive thing out of the entire deal, the first time that I ever found anything like this out in the wild, similar to my Night Lords Omnibus, but something that I think I'd have even less of a chance of finding, I found at Rose's bookstore, and it was Ian Livingstone's Armies of Death, otherwise known as Book 36 of, get in there, Fighting Fantasy. The Fighting Fantasy logo's in the bottom right. This is one of the Golden Dragon editions of the books. Publisher imprint that I wanted to collect all of the Fighting Fantasy books under. I wanted those, not the Wizard, not the Scholastic. I'm pretty happy that there is a Kickstarter going on right now that Steve Jackson Games is running to partner up with the British Steve Jackson and Sir Ian Livingstone and bring back 50 of the Fighting Fantasy books. They have a 50-book deal going on. The first 5 books are in this Kickstarter. I don't know if that means they're going to have 9 more Kickstarters after this, or if they're going to be able to fund them faster in larger groups, fewer crowdfunds, or what. But I was really happy to find this, and Tome Tuesdays is going to make a return, and we're going to play Armies of Death here on the channel. Can you defeat the nightmare army of the undead? Aglax, the Shadow Demon, is amassing an army of undead warriors to conquer Alancia. Setting off from Fang with over 200 veteran fighters, you journey east to meet the enemy, but the Shadow Demon is not of this world, and special powers are needed to destroy him. The longer you spend searching for these powers, the stronger he will be. 2 dice, a pencil, and an eraser are all you need for this adventure. You decide which paths to take, which dangers to risk, and which monsters to fight. Yeah, I'm very excited over this. And we'll just peek into the front here, look at some of that delicious 90s art, and we'll take a look at the character creation sheets, see what the last person was. It's unplayed. It is unplayed. We have soldiers. We have 100 warriors. We have 50 dwarfs, 50 elves, and 20 knights. I'm going to love this. I'm going to love how this works. I'm going to love it. Anyways, that is the crown jewel of what I was able to find. And yes, I did pay $20 for it. I did a quick search on eBay, seeing that 20 was pretty fair compared to what I was seeing on eBay. Nothing was particularly price gougey, but everything is way outside of my country, or there are some books just north of my country. But after factoring in the shipping time and cost, I figured, you know what, this is right in front of me. I'm going to get it. And so I did. And that's my book haul. So thank you very much for watching. Comment anything you'd like down below. Share with me your recent book findings, and I would be happy to take suggestions on where to go next. If you are kind of close to the St. Louis area, you can give me suggestions. All right, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next exciting adventure. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.